in your offices, and asked her, what are you going to do? What's happening? Now, Ann has said that she mentioned this to you and Representative Gamrat after the fact. Now, on July 6th, Ben and Keith were fired. To me, the timeline, because there are documentations you were unhappy with some of their performance from January. Now, to me, it seems from January to May 25th, when you gave them raises. I mean, you had all that opportunity, and now, 4 days after you find out they're talking to another staffer about indiscretions in your office, they're fired. I need to ask you straight out, did that have any bearing on their termination?
As far as the conversation they had outside of the office with Ann Hill, I would say that was the catalyst, but what happened in that incident as far as the conversation is that they were really trying to push Ann Hill out of the state offices. And so there was a sense that there was intimidation going on, and we asked them to kind of explain that situation, to remove her from obviously the offices, and then telling her that the offices were bugged and they had to go out onto the Capitol, out on the Capitol lawn to be able to speak to her. That was the situation in regards to that. We couldn't reconcile that with the idea of all the other issues that were going on inside the office to say, hey, you guys, we got a really good staffer in Ann, got a really good staffer in Karen, and now they're trying to push this lady out, and it didn't really make sense what they were attempting to do. And so at that point, it just became there wasn't really anything else we could do, and we informed Tim Bullen that it was time to go. I think that's what you're asking, but the situation was we were trying to replace replace the missing 2 people with people who are good clerical people and people who administered and loved administering, and Karen was doing a fantastic job in that, and so was Ann, and they were coming up to speed inside of that, and they knew they obviously couldn't get rid of Karen. She'd been with me for I think 5 or 6 years at that point, and had seen Ben and Josh and their failings because they worked she worked at the next desk next to them for going on 3 years before she came to the State House. So her interpretation of Ben and Keith and Josh was totally different, obviously, than than what their interpretation of what their work performance and that sort of thing was. So you can look at the staff in regards to that. But I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
Well, you did off the bat. You said that might have been the catalyst.
All right, so I ran off again on another tangent. Sorry about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Liberati. Vice Chair Heisey.
Thank you very much. I'd like to follow up on some questions that were raised by Rep. Verheulen before the break. During the investigation with the House Business Office, you stated that Representative Gamrat did not know about the email cover-up until she was shown a copy of the email on the House floor by a reporter. Is that accurate? Yes or no?
I'm going to object to the question. I think that was the exact question that Representative ran.
I can't hear you, sorry.
I'm going to object to the question because I think that question's been asked and answered. And that's the exact same question that Representative Verheulen asked before the break. And I think it was asked and answered.
I don't know if it was answered. I thought that was right before the break there.
No, I believe he did tender an answer to that, but
well, Todd, you want to? I'm sorry, Representative Corser.
Mr. Vice Chair, go ahead and move forward.
Okay, because I'm looking at Rep. Gamrat's statement to the Select Committee from yesterday, and she says Representative Corser and I discussed a number of options, including an over-the-top email to identify the source and also mitigate the potential negative publicity. So is she telling the truth or is she lying?
What I was speaking to in the House Business Office, I think when we were talking, Rob, when you asked the same question before the break, is the content of the email. I know that was transcribed by people in the House Business Office, and I corrected those. I didn't see the final report as far as what they had written down for my testimony, but it wasn't from tape that I remember that actual comment happened. So at that point in the House Business Office, we were having a conversation. I don't know that that statement is the totality of all of it. I was speaking to the content, if I remember, am recollecting now to those
Okay, so
conversations.
you didn't lie to the House Business Office?
I don't think so, no. I didn't intend to in any way deceive them.
Okay. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any further questions from members? I will ask my last one. And it's similar to what I led off with, but I think, I would like to pose it to you a little differently here at the end after going through this process today. With such huge examples of failure, misjudgment, character flaws, can you really believe that you remain qualified to serve? How can we be sure that, a similar situation doesn't arise when you're under pressure? Because you blamed a lot of this to having been under duress, under extreme pressure. How do we know that circumstances won't once again lead to all of these problems, these misjudgments happening again?
Well, I appreciate the question to bring it back again. I think it's hard to go back and explain to people what was going on at that moment. I would just say that first and foremost, and I'm just here to try and explain that as best I can and give you the testimony as best I can. And I know you folks are wrestling with the idea of qualification and what that means for this legislative body. I understand that. I felt it was important for me to come and testify and to give you as much clarity, and I know I've run on some of my questions or answers, trying to answer what I think you're asking and to yet give information around that. But I would just say it was a very unique situation. It was incredibly unique, and I wanted to come and explain that. Does it amount to a series of, character failures, or is it a moment that it happened and sort of everything precipitated from that? My sense is, when I look at it, I'm saying, that moment was a really difficult time. It isn't the totality of who I am. And I think that taking steps in a positive direction, one of them is this, and sort of acknowledging and saying, I screwed up. I can't, there's no way I can really, call it anything other than that. There's no question about the failure, no question about the situation with the email. At that time, those things are going on, and trying to obviously straighten those things out as we go along. I think I can serve, and I think I'm able to contribute to this body and contribute to the efforts to try and make this state, great. And so I would just ask inside of that, I think myself looking at it, it was just a very unique situation. I don't explain the circumstances because I'm trying to deflect. I'm just trying to give you sort of the totality of everything that was happening in those moments. I know you folks are going to be the ones wrestling with the qualifications, and I understand that. I put forward the censure resolution, and I understand that you folks are, wrestling with whether it's expulsion or censorship. And I fully appreciate that. So my effort was to try and just explain the uniqueness of all of that and explain really what was going on in those moments with me.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions from the committee. Oh,
I do.
All right. One more. Vice Chair Heisey.
All right, thank you. I want to talk about the false flag emails again, or email. You called your email a controlled burn, which you described as a little bit of the truth mixed in with a lot of lies. So the false flag email does have some truth to it? Yes or no?
Well, I guess inside of that, I'd have to go back and look at the email myself to figure out what part was truth. She was kicked out of caucus. I wasn't in caucus. I guess there's a little bit of truth. I don't know past that, what you'd call truth. I'd have to, kind of think about it. It was a really difficult moment, as I've explained, so I don't know if there's anything I can really add to the idea of the false flag email.
And your email also states that Rep. Gamrat knew about it all along and has helped cover your actions. Is that a true statement? Or is that a
No,
lie?
inside of that, I guess I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm talking to you about your email. Rep. Gamrat knew about it all along and has helped cover your actions.
Well, I think it's all of those bizarre things that I said about myself before that is what I was referring to. So.
Okay. And again, this was a moment in time. I think you described it this morning, but you had nothing to do with a 2014 campaign flyer that was very similar in its tone.
Are you asking a question in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did not.
Okay. And so any reference also in the tape that we heard today that when you said to your staff that 2 to 3 years ago, the last time we did this, do you know what that means?
Last time we did this in campaigning, I was involved, I think, in 6 campaigns in 7 years. So I think we were referring to, and I don't know how that fit into the rest of the context. There's a lot of brokenness inside of that as far as where I was at personally. I can't tell you specifically. I heard it in totality just this past week from 4 months ago.
Also in your comments, you make the comment, quote, "They want us dead." I heard that again this morning. They want us dead. Who's the they in that comment?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. So do you think that there are still people either in this building or elsewhere outside of this building who want to do you harm? Do you feel like you're still being exploited in some way or extorted in some way?
The last text that I received was August 7th.
And you felt that text had an extortion element to it?
Well, I mean, I've released, the police law enforcement is looking into it. I don't think there's anybody in this building. I would go back and tell you, I don't think there's anybody here in this committee or in the leadership that is trying to come after me in some way. So.
What assurance do we have, and this is my last question, Mr. Chair, what assurances can I get from you that you're not going to have another moment in the future?
Well, I mean, inside of this, I mean, obviously there's the extortion plot, whatever it is no longer happening. It's been exposed. Obviously the details of the relationship have been exposed and, all of that sort of thing. So coming forward and explaining it, the best I can give is to come and give the testimony that I have and try to correct the wrongs that I've done and move forward from here. I can't correct the past. The past is the past. I just need to explain it and move forward from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chair, pardon me. One quick one? All right, I'm trying to get us all
Thank you, Mr.
home
Chair.
for the evening.
In that first tape, the audio recording, you tell Ben or you state, I thought I was going down before. I'm wondering if you can explain that, if you remember. You were talking about this email, you've been thinking about it, I thought about it, I thought I was going down before, like years ago, is the way it made it sound to me. I'm just, if you remember that comment, if you have any thoughts on that.
Again, it's tough to go back. Like I said, I don't recognize myself in those moments. I would say inside of that is that, when you lose the number of elections that I think only Lincoln has lost more than I've lost. And I'm joking there, but I think it's pretty close. I don't really remember the context of what that was about. There was a lot of choppiness to the conversation as far as my responses to it. So I can't give you where that was at.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative. And one more did come in, but this will be our last one. Representative Verheulen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again for being here. This is an easy one. I just want to make sure that you feel that this process has been fair, that you've had an opportunity to speak to the committee, address the facts, and I've gone through it as we all have, and I'm sure you have as well. But I just wanted to ask you to comment on that.
Can I ramble a little bit here? No, my attorney said no, absolutely not. I think it's been...
No, you may not. Follow the instructions of your counsel.
Thank you. Yeah. I would just say inside of that, I have tremendous respect for you folks for doing this, and I'm really sorry to put all of you in this situation. first and foremost. I'm sorry for the disrepute that I brought to, the House, and, commenting, on where, I don't even know how to answer for you, Rob, other than just to say I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be in the State House. I'm very thankful for what that's meant. I would say, I think I came in and I was joking just a few minutes ago and said, if there's one thing I would go back and do and change, it would probably to go less heavy. I think if I've learned something inside of that, it's to say, hell, not everybody's against you. And so if I'll do less emails and less Facebook posts, certainly coming out of this whole situation. But in any event, I would just say I think it has been an absolutely fair process, and I'm very thankful for you guys and the effort you've put in over your summer. I know Hassan's put in a whole bunch of work and walked through all of that, and I know Brock has as well. So I would say it's been an absolutely fair process. One other note I would say, and I will have to tell him personally, is to Kevin Cotter, to the Speaker, and I think it's absolutely essential to, I know there were meetings that happened. I don't know the content of those. I don't know what you would do in that situation with all those situations going on. But I don't think in any way he knew about the texter or he knew about the tapes or any of that sort of thing. I think that they were trying to figure out what to do with all that. I genuinely think that. And so I know that some people are inside of that. You're looking at how does that go forward. I understand that. But if I insinuated in any way that the leadership was involved in those parts in the background, I didn't mean to do that.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you for taking the time to come before the committee today, and thank you for waiting through the long recess as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, members. Seeing no further business before the committee, I'll just remind you that tomorrow morning we will reconvene at 9:30. Vice Chair Heisey moves we adjourn. Hearing no objection, we're adjourned.